Yo. Like I'm out of focus. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. I really feel like I'm out of focus. I think it focused on my chair. Hold on. I have to move the mic out of the way because it might want to focus on the mic. I don't know. Anyway, that'll work. Welcome to the stream. Can everybody hear me? Tyler Williams, thank you for the $15. Yo, what up? What up, everybody? Back with another stream. I don't know if anybody was around yesterday, but I streamed a little bit yesterday playing some games. I think I'm gonna do like random gaming streams every now and then because I want to do more gaming. So we'll just see how that works, I guess. Historically, gaming streams are not super popular on this channel, but you know, I like to do it, so I'm gonna do it. Anyway, how's everyone doing today? Where's everybody chatting from? Where you at? How's the weather? It's been raining all week here in Birmingham. It looks like the rain has kind of subsided for now, but it's still kind of wet and gloomy. SC Oshawa, Ontario. Did I say that right? San Diego, weather is sunny. Of course it's sunny in San Diego. Buffalo, New York. Got a couple of Canadians in here. Well, I don't really have anything planned for the stream. Just another Ask Me Anything like we do most of the time. Whatever the chat wants to talk about, we can talk about for a little while. It's kind of cool that it's I'm not a big fan of rainy weather, but if it wasn't raining, it would probably be super fucking hot, which I think I like worse because it gets really hot and humid here and you go outside and you can't breathe. It sucks. Like I feel like August is, I feel like it's gonna be pretty bad here. But so far the weather hasn't been too hot. There's been a couple of hot days. I don't even think we've had like a 90-degree day yet, which is kind of odd because it's, you know, it's already deep into summer. Maybe we haven't, I just didn't experience it because I stayed inside, but we've had a couple hot days. We've been having like flash flood warnings all week because it's been raining so much. But I don't really have to leave my house that much. It's not that big a deal, but you know, just like trying to run errands and shit, like going to the store, it's like miserable when it's like all wet outside and stuff like that. At least from my perspective. Some people like rainy weather. I imagine it's not as bad in less humid places, but it's super humid in the south. It's not as bad as like Florida or something. Florida is like miserable during the summer. But yeah, yeah, I had to run some errands earlier, and it just started raining while I was out. But looks like the rain has stopped. I can kind of see the sun peeking through my window. I don't really, honestly, I should let natural light into my room more. I literally have blackout curtains all the time. But I think like natural light is like good for you. Like it's good for both physical and mental health, I think. But I just never let it in. So I can like barely see the sun peeking through my curtain right now. How do you get rid of the weather thing they've added to the lower left of the toolbar in the latest Windows 10 update? Yeah, I've noticed that too. You can't get rid of it? Surely you can get rid of it. I kind of like it though. I don't really mind it. Any cicadas in my area? Hell yeah. Cicadas, dude, not where I live now, but my last apartment, there was like a couple of cicadas outside my apartment. They were like on the wall, like right by my apartment door. And cicadas are loud as fuck. So it was just super loud, just right outside my door. I'm not really an introvert, actually. I just don't really have to leave the house that much. I think I've learned a little bit. I've like learned how to be more introverted because of the pandemic. But I love being around people, for sure. Um What's your best and worst Smash tournament experiences? Best and worst. I don't know. Is that something on my face? What the hell is that? I mean, I've enjoyed almost all of my tournament experiences. Maybe the best one was when I went to a large tournament and I got to meet a lot of like the top players that sort of inspired me. Like I got to meet Mewtwo King and Hungry Box, and just some other like community members that weren't necessarily top players, but just cool people that I wanted to meet, like PB&J and you know, folks like that. This is like old school, so this isn't like the newer stuff. But that was probably the coolest experience. The only time I've ever like come in first places in a tournament was playing doubles. I played doubles with a friend of mine who's pretty good, and we won the tournament. That was pretty cool. Made like $100 or something. In singles, the highest I think I've placed is second. And that was in the Brawl days. Brawl was like my heyday of Smash. That was the game that I was like actually like really competitive in. I was like top 10 in Alabama in Brawl. But I never won a tournament. I came in second once though. And I came in third a bunch of times. Worst Smash experience? I can't think of anything too bad. There's been a lot of like secondhand experiences where like I've been watching a match and some dude like raged out and like yanked his controller and like pulled the GameCube and the TV off of the table. It's just a little small CRT TV, and that was pretty cringe. That's one of the cringiest moments for sure. Are you working on Zane? Thank you for the $2. Are you working on Superchat season 2? Yes, I am. I used to live in Myrtle Beach where you could find a small gator in the street. Yeah. I haven't seen a gator. I think that's more of a Florida thing. But we get all kinds of bugs. In Alabama, we get like the woodland creatures, the forest creatures. We get like, I don't even know, does that count as woodland? We get like possums and armadillos and shit like that. If you're like real in the woods, you can see like hogs and boars and shit, like wild boars. I saw a boar on the side of the freeway one time. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Those are the kind of the creatures that we see. My dad used to live in San Antonio, Texas, and he had like an infestation of like scorpions or some shit in his garage that he had to deal with. That just seems terrifying to me. How long have I had my locks? The best way to answer that question is to tell you how long I've been growing my hair, which is about 11 years. They weren't always locks in all of those 11 years, but at some point they became locks. Hey man, loved your videos for a while. Going back to your cultural appropriation one. Quick question, but a biggie, are you vegan? No, I'm not vegan. Up to today, how many roaches have you killed? Like out of all time? I don't know. I don't generally kill roaches that much unless they're like actively doing something that's unacceptable, like crawling on my food or something. or unless there's some kind of infestation. But generally, they're just chilling. My buddy won FL Florida in Brawl. Who's your buddy? And Nintendo flew him into Cali to compete. If your buddy's good at Smash, I probably have heard of them. Should European countries give a formal apology to their former colonies? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem super helpful. I think more tangible compensation would be better. Just do right by them. Help them out if they need it. Embrace the cultures that have sprung forth from that. Things like that. What do you think about funny Vaushman? Not sure if serious. What if the apology was on a really nice letterhead? Maybe so. Are there any webcomics you've read and really liked? Webcomics? Yeah, I guess. I think I've read one in a while. I mean, I like what's it called? SMBC, Sunday Morning Breakfast Cereal. That's a really good one. I feel like that's more of a comic strip. I mean, I guess it still counts as a web comic. I mean, it's a comic on the web. It's a comic strip on the web, so I guess it's a web comic. But it's like, it doesn't like follow a story. They're just more like one-off jokes. I used to read Penny Arcade back in the day, but I mainly like Penny Arcade because I really loved the art style. I didn't necessarily think it was like super funny, but I really just liked the way it was drawn. What do I think of Vosh? I don't really follow Vosh that much, and I get asked about Vosh a lot, which is interesting. I don't really know why I get asked about him more than anybody else. But I only know just random little things about Vosh. I don't watch his content like frequently. What I usually say about Vosh is I am not his target audience, and because of that, his content doesn't really appeal to me. Like I'm not the people that he's trying to reach. I see he seems to be like really into like the debate bro stuff, which is not really my jam. Especially like the debate bro stuff from, I guess, the communist perspective. Like that's just not I'm just not the target audience for that. Ambria Ashley, thank you for the $3. Hey, love your videos. Where'd you go to school? I spent several years at the University of Alabama and at UAB, which is University of Alabama, Birmingham. But I never finished school. I'm a college dropout. But I went to school for a lot of years. Which movies do I prefer, sci-fi or horror? I guess between those these days, it's probably horror, which is interesting because I never used to really like horror, but sci-fi movies are like always bad. I mean, I mean that's obviously not true, but like I feel like there are not that many good sci-fi movies. And depending on what you consider sci-fi, like like in a way you could say that superhero movies are sci-fi. Does that count as sci-fi? Because I love superhero movies, especially MCU movies. You know, and then there's like sci-fi action. So it's, all these genres are a little bit nebulous, but pure sci-fi, I just feel like there's not that many good sci-fi movies unless you just really like that genre and you kind of overlook some of the basic flaws, which, is fine. That's what I do at superhero movies. Thanks for answering. You spend all that money, might as well be a college grad. Yeah. That's what my mom says. I don't necessarily have a need for a college degree, but sometimes I'm like, it would be just cool to say I have one. But I'm not good at school. I'm a bad student. I think that the way that American academics work is just, it doesn't like complement the way that I think and the way that I am. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that debate can be useful as long as there are no winners, because knowledge and understanding isn't gained from winning but losing more than anything. Yeah, I don't have a problem with debate specifically. I think debate is good, especially if you're good at it. The problem is most people aren't good at it, and the problem is online. It's become this sort of like spectacle that seems often pretty counterproductive, and like it gets like personalized and stuff rather than people trying to actually spread ideas. It's people trying to prove how smart they are, and I don't know, that's pretty lame to me. Like, that's what I mean by sort of debate bro stuff, where it's either people trying to dunk on other people or trying to prove how smart they are, which is not interesting to me. But people who are trying to spread ideas, or who are trying to expose bad ideas, I think that is useful, and I think that people should do it, as long as you understand that debating is a skill that you need to develop. And if you aren't good at it and you try to do it, you might end up looking foolish and hurting your cause. Do I play Overwatch? Yeah, sometimes I like Overwatch. I have not watched The Expanse. Do you believe aliens are real? I think it is very, very likely that there's life on planets other than Earth. I can't say I believe something that there's no evidence of, but I am convinced that it is very likely. Sci-fi books have way more to offer. Probably. I haven't read that many. I mean, I haven't read that many books in general, but I definitely haven't read many sci-fi books. You know, the thing about genre fiction that a lot of properties fall into is they spend so much time working on the setting that they don't spend a lot of time working on like the plot and the characterization, and those are kind of the things that make stories good, in my opinion. I think a lot of stories they focus so much on the setting and the universe and the world building, which is cool. It's awesome, but a lot of times that's to the detriment of like the actual story. PS3 or Xbox 360? Feel like you're a few years late for that debate. I myself bought a 360, but I mainly bought it because that's what all my friends were playing. I literally bought an Xbox 360 so I could play Gears of War with my friends, and coworkers. Feels super performative. Well, I mean, it is performative to some extent if it's public. Like, there's nothing. I mean, the fact that it is performative is not exactly what makes it bad. Like this, what I'm doing right now is performative. You know, my videos are performative. But the thing is, you can be performative while at the same time, you know, sharing ideas, spreading ideas, or exposing bad ideas. But a lot of times it seems like that's not really what's happening. When MTG follows David Hogg or stands out AOC's office, is it productive to debate her? Probably not. I mean, like I said, debating is a skill. It's not. I think the problem is a lot of people think that winning a debate is as simple as being right or having better ideas, but that has almost nothing to do with it. Winning a debate is about being persuasive, and you don't have to be right in order to be persuasive. So a lot of these sort of right-wing people who are interested in debate and who like to challenge people to debates and, you know, follow people around, the reason they do that is because they know that if you catch someone off guard, if you catch someone when they're not prepared, you can make them look stupid, even if they're right, even if their argument, even if their position is more valid than yours. You can make them look stupid regardless. That's why Steven Crowder does the whole prove me wrong thing, where he goes to college campuses. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's finding these young people who barely know anything about anything yet, and he, you know, blindsides them out, you know, out in public, while he's got like a thick ass binder full of notes. And his positions are almost always ridiculous and or just easily, easily dismantled by a prepared person. But these are not prepared people, so he usually makes them look stupid. There's been 1 or 2 times where he's kind of like self-owned himself, but he usually makes the people look stupid, and he knows what he's doing. Thank you for the comment, Kent. The U.S. military officially showed us actual footage from UFOs. Like, how are we still acting normal? It is pretty wild that that didn't get more coverage and more reaction, because that definitely did happen. Another thing about debate is people will debate in bad faith. So if you're going into a debate, you have to be prepared for the possibility that someone is debating in bad faith. Because if someone else debates in bad faith and you still try to like have a normal conversation, you're just gonna lose, because they're not playing by the rules. So that's kind of what I think is happening with the the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff. Did you go to college? Also, what's your job other than YouTube? I went to college, but I dropped out. What's your job other than YouTube? I don't have a job other than YouTube. YouTube is my job, which is pretty amazing. And that's thanks all to people like you who watch me and support me. What's my favorite snack? My favorite snack is probably Funyuns. If I had to pick one, that'd probably be it. But I like a lot of stuff. But Funyuns are so good, yo. They also, I don't know if they've always had this, but like the zebra cakes, the Little Debbie zebra cakes, they've got those except in a roll, like Swiss rolls. And those are fucking delicious. Whenever we go play D&D on the weekend, we usually buy a box of those, and I eat way too many of them. I don't know how you're supposed to stay healthy when stuff like that exists. The school system needs revamping for sure. It's not for everyone. Meant to say that I consider you a college grad, because anyone they bankrupt is a grad in my eyes. I mean, that's cool. As much money as I spent and didn't get the degree out of it, I don't regret going to college. I think I still learned a lot of stuff, and I learned a lot about people, and I met a lot of different types of people. It was kind of like my first exposure to different types of people. Like, I got to live on campus and all that stuff. I got really close to who's now my best friend. Like, I majored in not majored, but I went to college with a few friends from high school, and there's a guy that I was pretty good friends with. But when we got to college, we became super close, and he's my best friend now, and I don't think that would have happened if I didn't go to college. So Robert, thank you for the 10 euro. Is that euro? Euros. Have you made or know any good articles, videos on this topic? How much do you think that progressives create a victim mentality? This is a criticism I hear, but it's never supported by research. Create a victim mentality. I don't know that progressives like create a victim mentality. I think that some individuals impose a victim mentality on themselves and others, but I don't know if that's like a result of like progressivism in general, but I think that that can be a valid criticism for sure. I've talked about many times how I see a lot of people on the left, a lot of progressives, we focus on the marginalized aspects, but we often don't bring up our own privileges. And like, I think there's a lot of people who act like as long as you're not a straight white man, then you don't have privilege. But clearly that's not true. You know, I'm a black person, and there's circumstances that come with that, but I'm also a man, I'm also straight, and I have those privileges. And a lot of people don't like to talk about those privileges. And so I think that that can be part of that criticism. I also think that progressives sometimes like to confer victimhood on others. Is confer, is that the right word? Confer. Yeah, I used it right. I think some people like to confer victimhood on others even before that group has accepted victimhood upon themselves. And that happens a lot. Like getting offended on behalf of other people before they even told you whether or not they were offended. I think that happens a lot too. So I think some of those criticisms are valid, but at the same time, I think a lot of times people are talking about victim mentality when you're just simply stating the facts. You know, if you're saying, you know, there's systemic racism in the world, that's not victim mentality. That's just saying a thing that's true. That's just saying a problem that we need to solve. So I do think that sometimes these criticisms can be a little bad faith. Have I seen Ultra Mechatron Team Go? I have seen it. It's pretty cool. I prefer Trey Crowder to Steve Crowder. No relation. I agree. Do I watch Bo of the Fifth Column? I have watched a lot of Bo stuff. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Is this the Patrick origin story? It is the Patrick origin story. Do I agree that BreadTube is cringe? I don't really know what BreadTube refers to. BreadTube is either, some people like proudly say I'm BreadTube, but other people say, oh, BreadTube is just a bunch of liberals. Like, I don't know what BreadTube is, dude. I'm pretty vocal about my privileges. I can say that that's true. Happy Pride Month. Do you have any thoughts on the commercialization of Pride or on companies that take anti-racist, anti-bias stances but don't follow through? I think it's disappointing if there's like hypocrisy. I don't necessarily have a problem with like corporations being more progressive, even if it's just to make money, because you know that what's the alternative? Them to like be shitty to minorities. So I'll take it. But don't be hypocrites about it. If you're gonna say it, then back it up, you know? Kind of like the whole thing with YouTube. If I don't know how familiar you all are, but YouTube, you know, every year they're always talking about Pride and how they support Pride, but you know, LGBTQ topics on YouTube get like demonetized and blacklisted and shit like that. and they, for a while, they might still even deny that it happens, but they straight up denied that it was happening when it was like clearly happening. A lot of independent experiments were done that proved that it was happening. So stuff like that. And I'm not saying that YouTube specifically targeted LGBTQ people, but their algorithm clearly had identified this kind of content as being like algorithm unfriendly. And YouTube was just, you know, they weren't doing anything about it. So, do you remember the 90s Mentos commercials? Yep. I do remember them. Yeah, the victim thing is not specific to the left for sure. At what point of someone's life should have cancel culture immunity? Is it just the severity of the offense? When should someone have cancel culture immunity? I don't think I understand the question. Is there someone that has cancel culture immunity? Is that a thing? Why aren't you a communist? Because I am okay with private ownership and selling things for profit, and I'm okay with people having more money than other people. I don't know. Am I religious? No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Do you think it does more harm than good? Yes. I think religion is pretty bad. There are good elements of it, but I do think it probably does more harm than good. That's not what communist is, dude. Yeah, you didn't ask me to define communist. You asked me why I'm not a communist. Curious to know what you think about if you think that more and more the pushback against cancel culture in itself is becoming exactly that, toxic and hiding biases. I don't know. I think that everything is complicated, and there are good things and there are bad things, and we just need to like chill out and try to like be reasonable about stuff, rather than saying, oh, one side is 100% right or one side is 100% wrong. Why don't we just all examine what we're doing and how we can be better? I think both sides could be better. Were you not responding to me when you said that's not what communist is? Were you talking to someone else? Is I got so much drip, they should call me a faucet and acceptable bar. Is that, did you write that? I went to UAB and haven't been to Birmingham in ages. How's the old city doing? I guess Birmingham's good. It's hard to say because of the pandemic. Everything has been slowed down, and a lot of the momentum that's been building up in the city is halted, and of course that's happened pretty much everywhere, but I think Birmingham's dope. There's a lot of cool spots. Would I say I'm an expert on communism? Nope, I'm not an expert on anything really, I don't think. But I'm socialist though, no. Me? No. So when will we have cars running on water? I don't know. I don't know how that would work, because it seems like cars need to create a large amount of energy in order to propel themselves. I don't know how you do that with water, at least with only water. It's just kind of boring. Comparing yourself to a leaky faucet makes me sad more than like, holy shit, that's fire. It's more water than it is fire. I guess that's fair. I mean, that's the kind of I think that's the kind of criticism that results in even better bars being written, because I think I would have been okay with that bar. You're an expert on being a good friend to me. That's sweet. I've learned a few things, but I don't think I'm an expert. And I try to stress that all the time. Like, I'm not an expert. I'm not a thought leader. I'm just a dude on the internet that talks. And it's wild that you can do that for a living, but here we are. What's your politics? I actually, I mean, I can give a brief answer, but I actually, so like, I copied Destiny. Like, if you're familiar with Destiny, he has a section on his website where he literally lists, like, you know, like all of his major political positions, and I like basically copied him. I don't have it complete yet, but I do have like some basics on my website that you can check out. If you go to t1j.site and then click on docs, you can see that. But like, when it comes to when people say what are your politics, I much prefer to answer very specific questions, because labels mean random. A label can mean a completely different thing to one person than it does to another person. Like, for example, when I say, like, if I say I'm a liberal, that seems fine to me, but for other people, the word liberal is like evil. Like, if you're a liberal, you're a bad person. So I would much rather prefer to answer specific questions about different positions, but liberal, progressive, social democrat, something in that area. I didn't see Bo Burnham Inside. I've been meaning to watch it, actually. Boxer briefs. Do you find, in spite of it being an accusation, neolibs willed against us in bad faith, that American leftists are too idealist in their actions? Not necessarily. I don't think idealism is the problem. Being idealistic is fine. I think, but the problem is if you're idealistic but you can't support your ideas, or if you're idealistic but you're like being a dick to people who don't agree with you. Like those are the things that are my problem. There was an ice cream truck rolling by. What ice cream would you get? I always like those strawberry shortcake ice creams. They were so good. I remember loving those, but I went to the grocery store and bought a pack of those recently and they weren't good. I don't know if I just bought the wrong brand or something, but I was like very disappointed. I would probably just get like an ice cream sandwich or something, like one of those big ice cream sandwiches. I fucking love that shit. Are you a rad lib? I don't know. I don't know what that is. What advice would you give to someone starting a career on YouTube discussing politics? What advice? Do you mean, it depends on what your goal is. Is your goal to be a successful YouTuber? I mean, I don't know if it's you, but is the goal to be a successful YouTuber, or is it the goal to be a successful presenter of ideas? Is your goal to be ethical and responsible? Because the advice changes depending on what your goal is. What encouraged me to start my channel and have a platform? It sounds like pretty glib, I guess, but I just like making stuff, and this was just another thing to make, and I just kept doing it. And I'm also like a pretty opinionated person. So the combination of wanting to make stuff and being opinionated just came together, and YouTube was just like perfect for that. Do I prefer the Star Wars prequels, sequels, or the OT? Well, the only of the sequels that I've seen is The Force Awakens. I haven't seen any of the other ones. And The Force Awakens is probably the best Star Wars movie that I've seen. Which is not saying much, because I don't think any of them are very good. So I guess sequels, even though I've only seen one. Have you ever tried Impossible or Beyond Meat? I have not, actually. What do you stand on single payer, $15 minimum wage, living wage, free college, and Green New Deal? I'm in favor of, assuming by single payer you mean single payer healthcare. I'm in favor of free or accessible healthcare, or free or affordable healthcare, regardless of the way that we do it. Assuming the quality of care is still at an acceptable standard. Practically, I'm in favor of $15 minimum wage, although I think the minimum wage should be higher than that. Or I don't think that minimum wage is, I don't think that raising the minimum wage is the best way to eliminate poverty, but it might be the most practical step, like right now. So I'm in favor of it. Free college is fine. I don't know. Green New Deal is kind of a huge, broad thing. So it depends on the specifics of the deal for sure. Do you think conservatives are more likely than liberals to believe false news? Yeah, I think that's like statistically true, actually. I think it's been proven to be true. Robbie Patz is rumored to play Nosferatu in an upcoming reimagining of the classic silent film. How funny do you find that? How funny do you find it that his career has come full circle? I think that's cool. I think it's pretty cool actually. Robbie Patz. I was like, who the fuck is Robbie Patz? But then I got it through context clues. All right, Christina, thanks for checking out the stream. I think I'm behind on the chat, trying to catch up. What's your least favorite part of taking care of yourself? For me, it's cutting my fingernails. Yeah, I fucking hate fingernails, dude. I want to get like a laser treatment to make them just not grow back anymore. But probably exercising is my least favorite part. I just don't ever want to do it, but I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to find like exercise stuff that I like actually like doing. Like I might like pick up a sport or something. What do you think about anarchism? Have you done any research on it? I mean, I haven't done like a deep dive on it, but you know, I've heard a few basic ideas. It seems interesting. Do they demonetize your videos often for talking politics? I would not say often, but sometimes. Usually if I'm discussing like a graphic event or like some kind of recent news story that involves something very controversial or very like violent or something. Like for example, when I made videos about police brutality, those all got demonetized. But I'd say like 85% of the time my videos don't get demonetized. Not anymore. They used to, but not anymore. YouTube kind of fixed all that. Have I checked out Ben Dixon or David Pakman? I have checked out both of those. They're cool. I'm a big fan of David Pakman. He's like one of my favorites. Goal would be to successful presenter of ideas, but also having a format that attracts like-minded people and people who disagree alike. Okay, well, I mean, none of those things are the same as being successful on YouTube. Like, you can develop a small audience, and that'll watch your videos and stuff, and that'll be cool. But that's not the same as having a career on YouTube. But if you care more about those things, then I would say just focus on making good videos and making sure your ideas are well thought out and well researched, and people will watch it. I don't know if hundreds of thousands or millions of people will watch it, but people will watch it. You can, like, if the videos are good, you can develop, a nice little audience, I think. But if you want to like have a career in YouTube, you're gonna have to put some time in, and you're gonna have to play the game. I mean, you might get lucky and blow up if you're like a genius, like ContraPoints or something. But if you're like a mere mortal like the rest of us, you're gonna have to put in probably years of time and effort, get really good at making videos, and also play the YouTube game, which means catchy titles, catchy thumbnails, maybe doing things like response videos to popular people, stuff like that. Am I into UBI? I don't know. My gut feeling is kind of like being suspicious of UBI, but I've talked to some people who said that they've done some studies about that and seen how like in other countries they've done tests with it and it seemed to work out. My gut reaction is that if you just give people cash, they're just gonna spend it on bullshit. But apparently people don't do that according to studies. So if that's how it's gonna work, then that's cool, because I think the main way that you eliminate poverty is by making sure that people's basic necessities are taken care of. And apparently there are some studies that say if you give people extra cash every month, they will spend it on basic necessities. And that's kind of the thing that I think we need to focus on. What did I think of the Critical Role season 2 ending? I mean, I loved it. It was sweet, as expected. Maybe a little over the top sweet, but I like stuff like that. I'm a softie. I hate brushing my teeth, which is annoying because everyone else hates when I don't brush my teeth. Yeah, I'm okay with brushing my teeth, although I just like forget to do it sometimes. I always do it like when I wake up, but you're supposed to brush twice a day, and I like always forget to do it another time. What's my favorite animal? Probably the sloth. Do I like any musicals? I'm not a big musical person, really. I like Disney movies. Does that count? I mean, they're technically musicals. I haven't really watched very many musicals in full, but from what I've seen, they're like almost always pretty cringy. I think it's just like the format is just not, I don't know. I don't get it. I did used to watch Lupin the Third though a lot back in the day. But yeah, if your only goal is to just blow up on YouTube, then you don't have to worry about all that research and shit. Just make the most sensationalist, dramatic shit ever. Call people out. You'll get a ton of views. It'll be great. How to turn 5G on the new iPhone? Well, I never have service. I don't have an iPhone though, so. Randomly breaking in a song is terrible for pacing. It's good if it's fine if the songs are good, but show tunes and shit are always really corny. Like, why? This is why I say, like, I like Disney movies. Like, Disney movie songs are bangers. And listen, there are some songs from musicals that are bangers, but usually it's just like one or two out of, the whole show. And listen, this is coming from someone who has not watched a lot of musicals, so I could be completely full of shit. But I'm just going off everything I've seen throughout my life. Do you have an opinion on the Hamilton musical? I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen like random pieces of it and performances. But like, I think people are, it's like, I guess people like, it's not accurate. It's like, okay, yeah, of course. It's just fucking Lin-Manuel Miranda's imagination. Let the man express himself. General advice for YouTube, regardless of its politics or anything else, is A, get good at making videos, which can take a long ass time if you don't know how to do it from the beginning. I still feel like I'm like just okay at it, but get good at making videos. Find something to make videos about. Well, honestly, you should get good at making videos before you even know what your channel is really going to be about, because you're going to evolve over time. That's just what people do. So just make a bunch of videos, hundreds of videos, like make videos for like a year until you get very comfortable and decent at videos. And then hopefully by then you'll develop an idea of what works, what the audience likes, what you like doing, and then just do more of that. If you're lucky, one of those videos might get a disproportionately higher view count, and you look at that and see, okay, why did that succeed? And then make more of that. Just make more of that. And then once you get to that point, then you can start thinking about playing the YouTube game. And basically that just means clickbait. And I think a lot of people don't like clickbait, but I don't mean you have to like be super cringy about it. Just make interesting titles and interesting eye-catching thumbnails. Things like that. And there you go. And there's other stuff you can do, like networking is really important. Getting involved in the community can help. Like, go to VidCon, go to events if you can. That shit helps. It really does. Like, it's a cliche, but like who you know really does matter. Hair's looking good. Appreciate that. I actually really love Rocky Horror Picture Show. But the thing about Rocky Horror Picture Show is that it doesn't pretend to be good. Like, I feel like most musicals want you to think that it's good. They want to be taken seriously to some extent. Rocky Horror Picture Show has no illusions that it's good, or that it should be taken seriously, at least. And again, most of the songs, in my opinion, most of the songs in Rocky Horror Picture Show aren't good, but it fits the movie because the movie is just so silly and weird. So the songs are silly and weird. There are like a couple good songs though. Like Time Warp is the shit. Sweet Transvestite is that shit slaps. What do you do to help yourself fall asleep? Breathing exercise helps. Weed helps. Certain teas can help. Sometimes what works for me is I put something on. I think Chris, I've talked about this, but like if you just put like something on the TV or on the computer that's just really boring, or like not necessarily boring, but just very like long periods of time where there's not big rises in volume and stuff, like someone with a very monotone voice or something that's very quiet, that helps me sometimes. Also, avoiding the things that keep you up. Like for me, if I have even a little bit of caffeine before bed, I just won't go to sleep. So I pretty much have stopped drinking caffeine after a certain hour, depending on the situation. If it's a situation where I know I need to sleep, then I just don't even drink even a little bit of caffeine. Do you ever go back and watch my old videos? Yeah, all the time. Not the old ones. Well, it depends. Some of the old ones I watch, but some of the old ones are pretty cringy to watch. But overall, I think I like. I mean, my videos are fine. I like them. I like watching them. And also, like, sometimes I go back and watch old videos to like remind myself of just different things, like not even just content wise, but just like, oh, what was the lighting setup I used in that video, or what was the color grading that I used in that video? I want to try that again, something like that. Is there any social topic that you want to talk about, but you don't feel as the right person to talk about it? There's not. I don't think it's anything that I want to talk about. I think as time goes on, or as my channel has evolved, I've realized that, at least not that I've realized, but I've decided that on certain topics, it's just not necessarily my lane to talk about it that much. Like in my last video, I mentioned transgender, like that. I mentioned the transgender experience, but I didn't go into detail trying to explain it or justify it or anything like that, because I don't really think that's my place to do. So it's not really that I want to. I kind of don't want to, but there are things that I don't talk about beyond like a very basic level. Have I played the Mass Effect series? I played a little bit of Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2. I was not a big fan of Mass Effect 1, but I did like Mass Effect 2 a lot. But those are the only ones that I've played. I notice your newer videos tend to have more color grading and tend to be way longer than your older videos. Yeah, my more recent videos have been just a lot of trial and error. And I still haven't really figured out what I want to do. So just bear with me as each video looks different. But yeah, been working on different styles, different lighting setups, different camera angles. Been trying a lot of different stuff. And yeah, they're longer for various reasons. The main reason is I just like want to talk more. But also, I would be lying if I would say that I'm not cognizant of the fact that YouTube likes watch time. YouTube generally rewards longer videos. So that's part of it. But it's not like consciously when I sit down to write a video, it's not like I'm gonna make this video 20 minutes long. Like, that is not in my head at all. It just ends up that way because I have so much to say. In fact, my last video, I kind of should have made it longer because there's more that I could have said. But I'm thinking about, for certain topics, going a little longer than I normally do, because some things are just hard to talk about in a shorter period of time. And it does seem like people are appreciating longer videos these days, especially in this genre of like video essays and stuff. I recently did a poll. I don't know if any of you saw that, but I did a poll about that, asking people like what they thought about the length of my videos. And most people, and this is what happens whenever I do a poll, most people are like, they're fine. I think most people are just like, you know, do whatever you want, even though that's not what they really think. They just want to be polite. But the second most popular choice was they could be longer. So we'll see. The problem is, and I think this is what people don't realize or they forgot, is compared to a lot of these other political video essayists, I make videos way more often than these other folks. Like, you know, if you think about people who are like in the same genre as me, political video essayist type people, or even just video essays in general, but like that sort of area, you know, there's people like ContraPoints, H Bomber Guy, Sean. These people make videos like once every like 2-3 months. Granted, those videos are like hour long, 2 hour long, but I make a lot of videos. I mean, I make like 1 to 2 videos a month these days. And I just cannot produce a 2-hour video every month. And I'm not sure that, I mean, I could probably get away with doing it the way that they do it. But I think it's good for me to stay, to have that sort of cycle of video releases. That's good for me. It keeps me working. And that's just kind of what I've chosen to do right now. But, you know, we'll see what happens in the future. Chris, you said 7 o'clock? Yeah, well, see, when my videos were like five minutes long, I try to make a video every week. And I could do that too, but I just can't fathom making a 5-minute video these days. I just don't even know how to do it. I should be around at 7. She Went Ahead makes 2 videos a month. True. She Went Ahead videos, I think, are unscripted and have light editing though, which is fine. I'm not saying that's bad, but I think they're easier to produce. But, you know, everyone has their thing. Everyone has their sort of niche that they fit in. What's my most watched video? Why do I think it's so successful? My most watched video is the mysterious S thing that we used to draw. And I'm not sure why it was so successful. I think it was just a thing that at the time when I made that, it was just something that was really relatable to a lot of people. And it was something that no one really thought about at the time. It was a really novel video idea at the time. These days, there's been a couple of much better videos on the topic. But at the time when I made that video, it was like a really big deal. That I think it was like 2014 or something when I made that. At the Disney villains ones used to be one of my top videos, but several videos have surpassed it these days. In fact, the second most viewed video is diversity versus tokenism, which is a video I didn't make not that long ago, maybe like a year ago. So that video has kind of blown past a lot of the old popular ones. Oh yeah, I'll have to check it out. Please don't watch that video. It's old and bad. Why do you think shitlords are no longer relevant? Seems like there were a lot of videos responding to them years ago. By shitlords, I assume you mean like the anti-SJWs and all those people. I think it's various reasons. I think for one, I think a lot of their audience. So I think a lot of their audience moved on to just like straight up alt-right shit. B, I think a lot of the audience just literally grew up and became more mature. C, a lot of the creators themselves decided to switch their content because they started to see that it was starting to fall off. D, a lot of the creators reformed and kind of stopped making that content. Like Shoonhead is a great example. Like Shoonhead is like super fucking left-wing social justice person now. And also YouTube itself started to crack down on some of the more wacky right-wing stuff, especially like the more conspiracy based and the more like harassment based stuff. YouTube started to crack down on it. And that was like a lot of their content was, you know, it was, you know, it depends on who it was. But, you know, there was, for example, there's a lot of like anti-trans stuff, a lot of sexism. And then there was like some straight up like proto-Nazi propaganda on one end of it that was like actually like growing on YouTube. And YouTube started to crack down on stuff like that. Have I considered doing interview content? Not necessarily. I don't know. I don't know how good of an interviewer I would be. I think I'm better at answering questions and asking them. But maybe. Yeah, back in the day, my Strictly Corner, back in the day, my videos were kind of all over the place. And that's kind of what I was saying before. You make a lot of videos until you kind of decide what works the best for your channel. And so like the people that still watch me that knew me from back then, I think that's wild because I feel like the channel is so much different. But thanks for sticking around. What are your thoughts on atheists like Richard Dawkins who always claim they're scientific and then goes on to retweet some transphobic stuff? I mean, I don't know. I haven't followed Richard Dawkins in so long. So the problem I think with a lot of these people is they think that skepticism involves questioning everything, even things that have already like been put under scrutiny and decided to be legit. They want to keep questioning everything, and they kind of just want to be like naysayers. They want to be disagreeable because that's, you know, that kind of fits this motif of like being a skeptic. But I think that's like a misinterpretation of what it means to be a skeptic. Like, if we've already settled something, we don't have to keep debating it, you know? Do you think Shionhead and Xanderhal will turn when the next conservative alt-right wave comes? Probably not. Well, I don't know that much about Xanderhal, but Shionhead, I think she has... First of all, she's at a level where she's good. She's not... Her career is pretty much set, so she can kind of do whatever she wants. But I think that she's at a point where she doesn't really care if large portions of her audience are talking shit about her. I feel like she used to care about that a lot, but I don't think she cares anymore. Like, I follow her on Twitter, and she still gets a lot of shit on Twitter. But she's kind of like embraced that, I guess. So I don't think that she would, but I don't know that much about Xanderhal. Thank you for the comment, Ghost Dialogue. Unfortunately, finding videos way less interesting since becoming friends with you and becoming less bigoted and narrow-minded. Interesting. I think me and my videos will continue to evolve, so be on the lookout. In fact, I think it's about time to try a lot of new things, or to try some new things for the channel, because I feel like I may have hit a little bit of a plateau. I need to try to reach the next level. What I notice about conservatives is they tell people that disagree to think for themselves, but what they really mean is they want others to think like them. It seems like a lot of conservative beliefs are basically like, we want there to be rules, but we just don't want the rules to apply to us. We want them to apply to everyone else. That's kind of like my sense of how conservatism tends to work. Contrary skepticism is really frustrating to me. It's good to question old norms, but perpetual debate is not usually an example of that. It's often just belligerence. Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't know how you all feel, but like, I used to be a bit of a shitlord, so I can tell when someone is doing something in bad faith because I used to do that shit all the time. So I kind of can tell when it's happening. So it's not even like honest discussion half the time. It's like very clearly bad faith, dishonest, uncharitable attacks that happen. And I can tell because I used to do it. Yeah, I saw the character animator has like a full body, like it's like in beta or something, isn't it? Yeah, I was gonna do I wanted to mess around with the Adobe character animator to see if I could make some videos with it. The problem is I can't buy it without buying the entire Creative Suite, and I don't want the entire Creative Suite. I don't want to spend, what is it, like $70 a month or some shit like that. Thought about doing comedy. I mean, I want to do more comedic stuff. I don't think I have a I don't know how to like write jokes. Like I'm not good at that. I don't think so, at least. But I do want to do more comedic stuff. Like I think I understand humor. I think I have a good understanding of what's funny. But like doing that on command is kind of hard for me. What's the quote? They want the law to protect them but not bind them, and they want the law to bind other certain groups without protecting those groups. Yeah. Exactly. I still cringe at how many times I've said to play devil's advocate when all I was really doing was frustrating people for no good reasons. Exactly. Matthew McConaughey is rumored to run for governor of Texas. He commented in an interview that he thinks centrism is the way to move forward. Do you think that could ever work? Do I think it could work? I mean, it depends on what counts as working. And it depends on what he means by centrism. I generally don't go for centrism because it seems like the idea of centrism is the idea that the correct view is usually in the middle, and I don't think that's true. Sometimes I think just one side is wrong and one side is right. And you have to be able to acknowledge when that's the case. If you refuse to acknowledge that, I think that's probably a problem. I have an extra machine available on my Creative Cloud. I mean, we can talk about that. I need to get a I need to upgrade my computer. I was playing around with the character animator. I mean, it worked, but it like crashed on me. But maybe that was just happens. Do you agree with the saying "no uterus, no opinion" in regards to abortion? I generally don't like the idea that you're not allowed to have an opinion. Like that seems like a weird thing to say. But as with anything, you have to acknowledge when your opinion is based in a limited perspective. Like if you've never had children, you can have an opinion on the topic surrounding childbirth, but you just have to acknowledge that your opinion is based on a limited perspective, and someone might have more perspective on that. That applies to everything, you know. If you've never watched a single baseball game in your life, yeah, you can have an opinion on the best way to win baseball games, but your opinion is based on a limited perspective. You're allowed to have an opinion, but you're not. I feel like you're not allowed to, you know, be a dick and be presumptuous and act like you know more than other people, because you don't. You literally don't. So as long as you temper your opinion within the right context, I think it's fine to have an opinion. Centrism usually favors the status quo, so it can end up looking pretty close to conservatism. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that's why that's why a lot of I think that's why a lot of people say that Democrats, even though Democrats are supposed to be the left-wing party, a lot of people say that the Democratic Party is more of a centrist party. But it depends on what you mean by centrist. Like if it ends up being what I mentioned before, where the idea where you think the correct answer is always in the middle, I think that's a problem. I often like to compare centrist to moderate. And again, labels mean different things to different people. But when I think of moderate, I think of a person who thinks sometimes the left is more right and sometimes the right is more right. And that's a little bit different than saying the middle is always right. And I kind of respect the moderate more than I respect the centrist. Even though I probably don't agree with the moderate either, but I respect it more. But honestly, like, the thing about not having an opinion, like, it's important for people who aren't part of those groups to have an understanding of things. So I think they need to have an opinion. They just need to make sure that it's an opinion based on what you've learned through research and facts, but also from listening to the experiences of people from those groups. Like, I talked about earlier how I don't make videos about transgender stuff that much, transgender issues, because it's not really my lane. But there's been times where I'm in a position where I can help someone understand transgender issues a little bit more than they did before. And in that moment, I'm the only person that can really do it. So I think it's important for me to know a little bit about it and to have some informed opinions about it. I guess you couldn't blame me if I said I don't really feel comfortable talking about this. Maybe you should. I can give you someone else's information. You can go talk to them. But that's not always a possibility. So I think people need to have opinions, but just make sure that your opinions is based on the right information. I think the biggest political realization I had is that the middle of the road is no more inherently reasonable than any other position. The golden mean fallacy was very strong in me before that. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Like, that's a very logical position. Like, what is the basis for thinking that being in the middle of the road? I mean, I guess you could consider it like, like a razor, like Occam's razor, like a principle. But the thing is that principle like supported, by the data, by reality, but by our observations? To me, it's not. What's up, Flame Unicorn? Greetings from Germany. Well, greetings. Hope you're well. Hope you're vibing. I'm always vibing. Being from Europe, it just seems to me that U.S. conservatives push their politics way over to the right, not to mention the alt-right, which is basically fascism. I think that the Republican Party in the United States has made a concerted, conscious effort to move politics to the right, and I think they have succeeded. I think they absolutely know what they're doing. And as a result, ordinary United States residents who are conservative, they start to move to the right as well because they are generally loyal to their party. Like, a lot of these talking points are things that are literally just invented by the Republican Party. And I think the perspective, I honestly wonder what the perspective is from someone who doesn't live in the United States. Because a lot of the stuff that seems to be true of conservatives, if you go on the street and talk to normal people, it's not even that true. It's not even true. Like for example, most people, conservative or liberal, left wing, right wing, most people are in favor of some form of gun control, background checks, things like that. Most people, I think it's something like 70% of people in the United States. But from an outside perspective, it seems like conservatives are just gun nuts, and they want everyone to have 19 guns, and they want they want no restrictions. They want to be able to just go into Walmart and buy a pistol and no questions asked. That's like the perception, but that's what the Republican Party gives off. That's the perception that they give off, and that's why the conversations become so volatile, because the conversation has been moved over to that arena when that's not even what the situation is. And there's, I think there's lots of examples of that. I wouldn't say that conservatives are usually crazy. I think it's a little bit condescending. I think most conservatives are just trying to get by and trying to live their lives and trying to figure shit out. In fact, I've said this before, but I think that conservatives, at least in my perspective, I mean, I live in Alabama, so it's weird, but conservatives tend to be like friendlier than left-wing people, in my opinion. And happier. Well, it depends. I feel like a lot of the Trump people are like really angry for some reason. Should we bring back woolly mammoths? Should we just bring them back? Go grab them? Yo, there should be a woolly mammoth monster movie. Instead of Jurassic Park, it's just woolly mammoths. Honestly, I feel like the leftists are the main people who want guns these days. But yeah. I've talked about, I think even the last stream I did a couple weeks ago, we talked about guns. I'm not a fan of guns. What is the Lincoln Project? Political Action Committee. It aimed to prevent the re-election of Donald Trump. A lot of these mass shootings have tended to be with AR-15s and AK-47s, I noticed. Yeah. I think it's because those guns are popular, but also because they're really good at accurately shooting a lot of people in a short period of time. Yeah, Casey, I'm gonna be ending the stream pretty soon. I'll hit you up in a minute. I hate guns, but I'm also terrified that conservatives have the most of them. Yeah. The problem here, and I think this is kind of like the main problem and the main thing that's hard to communicate about guns, is that having more guns does not make you safer against guns. And I think this is like the key fallacy that people ignore or don't believe or don't understand. Like, I understand the idea behind that. Like, that kind of intuitively makes sense, but it's just not supported by data or reality. Do you think Texas will secede from the Union? I don't think that. Cristobal and Sagar from Rising. I don't know what any of that is. When it comes to happiness, I think ignorance is bliss. It's easy to not care about other people and what's happening to the planet, or just believing in better afterlife. True. But happier people generally are kinder to other people. I think there's this idea on the left that if you're not miserable, you're like doing something wrong. And I don't agree with that. I think that a lot of left-wing people end up being very cruel and very shitty, unappealing people, because they're just so angry about, you know, the perceived injustices in the world. And I don't think that that mentality is much better than what the conservatives are doing. The reality is that conservatives are not going to give up their guns. So, like, what's the option? Well, conservatives are going to do whatever the government forces them to do. This idea that having guns somehow makes you immune to the power of the government is silly. I don't think that the government is just going to take away everyone's guns. So I think generally what people are arguing for is just to do a better job to make sure that guns don't get into the hands of people who might want to do bad things with them. There's lots of proposed ways to do that. I don't know the best way, but we don't find the best way unless we try stuff. So there's many gun control measures that have been suggested. You probably are familiar with most of them. But it should be made clear that if the government decided that they were going to confiscate everyone's guns, they could do it. But I don't see that ever happening. At least not in my lifetime. Do you agree that social media and news channels give us distorted representations about the percentage of the population that believe XYZ because their business models focus on outliers and extremes? I mean, I suppose that's true. I think that different outlets, well, social media I think is much more likely to just post something that's just not true at all, just completely made up. Like, respected news outlets are much less likely to share something that's just completely false, but they definitely can distort the narrative by very selectively showing you certain things and excluding other things, for sure. That definitely happens. The risk of accidental death or suicide goes up by like over 5 times when a household has a gun. So for me personally, I just don't feel comfortable having one for that and other reasons. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Guns are not good at protecting you. It's just not statistically true. Will you go to prom with me? What's up, Wes? You can have a Twitch prom. Did I get the vaccine? Yes, I did. I don't think so. Conservatives are so pissed they stone the Capitol because they don't trust the government. Storm the Capitol because they don't. Yeah, and didn't one of them immediately get killed? And they stormed the Capitol, but did they really do anything? Did that have any effect whatsoever? I don't think the government will confiscate guns from anywhere but the hood, but the U.S. government makes too much money off legal gun sales. Yeah, I mean, even in I'm kind of speaking of a theoretical world or theoretical situation where somehow our government is full of legislators that are anti-gun, which is 100% not the case. But what if it was the case? I still don't think they would take people's guns, but if they wanted to, they could. Nate Robinson is my favorite boxer. Is he yours? My favorite boxer is Jake Paul. But I do agree that, there's always this idea that the best way to get gun control is for minorities to start stocking up guns. And I do agree that, I don't know if it would have that specific effect, but I do think it would cause people or cause these government agencies to be more, interested in the idea of gun control. And if there was such a gun confiscation, it's possible that it could be done in a unequitable way, if that's the correct term. I do think that's very possible. Like whenever we think about these kinds of things, we always have to think about, we need to make sure that these policies are carried out in a fair way that doesn't specifically and disproportionately target certain people. Even when we're talking about things like, we were talking about UBI earlier. If we ever were to implement that, we have to make sure that it's implemented justly and equitably. But we've been streaming for about 2 hours now, and I'm going to go ahead and start winding the stream down. Can maybe respond to 1 or 2 more comments, but thanks everybody for joining as always. Gonna try to stream again on Monday. I think a large percentage of conservatives kind of dissociate about the Capitol riot and just assume that only happened because the extremists and not their issue. Maybe so. I actually don't know the general, like, what people think about the riots among conservatives. I haven't really looked into that. I'm sure there's been a poll done or some kind of interview done, but I don't really know what they think about it. I think Adam Hall, I think that's a common strategy for conservatives, is to focus the narrative on these very like narrow, almost arbitrary conversations, so they can avoid talking about things that like really matter. So I think that not conservatives, but I think Republicans do that specifically. I think you're right about that. Yeah, I get D Wade all the time. People tell me I look like him all the time. I don't I mean, in some pictures I can see it, but I don't really see it overall. Gun confiscation would be incredibly violent. I mean, it would have to be, I guess. But again, I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, that's kind of how that's how this country operates. I think it's how most countries operate. Laws, the way that laws work is you follow the law, or else we will inflict violence upon you in one way or another, whether that be forcibly imprisoning you or even harming you physically. That's just kind of how it works. Which I understand a lot of people oppose on both the left and the right. But to some extent, I'm okay with that, as long as the laws are just. Do you think Sam Harris and the New Atheists from 10 years ago were reactionary against fundamentalists only? What do you think about religious moderates nowadays? Well, I think that a lot of them, and I think this was probably one of their problems, I think that they kind of ignored the fact that religious moderates existed. Well, that's not necessarily true, but most of their arguments were against the literal scriptures. And so whenever you watch a debate that they would do with like a religious person, usually the religious person would be like, okay, well, you're misinterpreting my beliefs. That's not what I believe. I don't believe that. And to be honest, I think that's a little bit of cognitive dissonance on the part of the religious people, because religious people will say, I don't believe that. But at the same time, they will say something like, the Bible is infallibly true, even though they just said they don't believe the thing that's written in the book. But at the same time, if these people say they don't believe that, then you can't argue that. You can't tell them what they believe. You can't tell them what their argument is. And I think that's what they did a lot of the time. I'm all for people becoming less fundamentalist. I think religion, I'm pretty hostile to religion. I think it's not great. But, you know, practically we need people to be reasonable and not use their religious beliefs to, you know, be awful and do all this weird stuff. So the more religious the more moderate people are religiously, I'm probably okay with that. Because I don't know if the new atheists thought that they could argue the religion out of people, and maybe they did to some extent. But I don't think that's going to work on a full scale, you know. I don't know how you could enforce rules in a society without some degree of violence, and societies need some rules. Yeah, I don't know. I think there are a lot of libertarians who might have something to say, and there are a lot of leftists who would have something to say. But I agree with you. Me personally, I agree with you. But not everyone, people have different views for sure, as you might imagine. It takes all kinds, as they say. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the people that sent the old super chats. I'm gonna try to stream again on Monday. Go ahead and click the notification bell if you don't want to miss a stream. I should have a video coming out later this month. Look out for that. If you're interested in having more cool conversations like this with some other members of the community, consider joining the Discord. Just go to theonejanitor.com/discord. It's a really chill community, just like how chill this was. That's how it is there all the time. Very chill. Also, I post on there pretty frequently, so you can holler at me on there. But I suppose that is it. So I will see you next time. Bye-bye.